In our last video, we ventured into a hypothetical nightmare, Lesotho becoming South Africa's 10th province. The responses were passionate, divided, and deeply personal. But one comment from the Free State stopped us in our tracks. It didn't just challenge the premise, it flipped the entire script and definitely redirected our gaze. This comment is more than frustration. It is a cracked window into a centuries-old wound, the story of lost land, a kingdom carved apart, and the psychological scars that shape both Lesotho and South Africa. It forced us to ask, what if the conversation isn't about Lesotho needing South Africa for survival? But what about South Africa returning the Free State to the Basotho people? I'm your host, Tšepo Lipholo. Welcome to In Perspective, where every issue deserves a closer look. To understand the power behind that comment, we must go back in time, not just to Moshoeshoe I, but to the earliest footprints on this land. Long before the Basotho Kingdom took shape, the fertile plains of what is now the Free State were home to early clans such as Batlogwa, Baphuti, and Bakubu, and before them the indigenous Khoisan people, whose rock art still whispers from the sandstone walls of the Eastern Highlands. This wasn't no man's land. It was already home. And then enter King Moshoeshoe I, born in 1786. With unmatched strategic brilliance, he formed a cohesive nation during the violent disruptions of the Mfengane, or Difaqane. He didn't conquer, he united. Refugees, fractured clans, and war-torn communities were absorbed into his expanding kingdom. He offered them cattle, land, and security. From the mountaintop, the fortress of Thaba Bosiu, Moshoeshoe fused diplomacy and defense. When he defeated enemies, he didn't humiliate them, he fed them. And that is what made his power ever-growing. In 1833, he invited French missionaries, including Eugene Cassilis, who would become his translator and diplomatic advisor. The Basotho Kingdom was flourishing. Rooted in the lush lowlands of modern-day Free State, its soil fertile, its economy agrarian, and its unity strong. But this very prosperity would soon attract eyes far less benevolent than those fleeing war. The lowlands about to come the front lines of conquest. In 1854, the Orange Free State Republic was formed by Dutch descendant settlers, the Trekboers. Their hunger wasn't just for space. It was for the Basotho lowlands, known as the Conquered Territory. From 1858 to 1868, a series of brutal wars followed. The Free State Basotho Wars, especially the Treaty of 1865, were not mere military confrontations. They were campaigns of scorched earth devastation. Crops were torched, livestock stolen, homesteads razed, entire communities uprooted. And Moshoeshoe's stronghold at Thaba Bosiu held firm. But even stone could not shield the nation from starvation. Facing overwhelming force and the systemic ruin of his people, King Moshoeshoe I made a fateful appeal to the British for protection. And so, in desperation, Basotho land became a British protectorate in 1868. But protection came at a price. In 1869, Britain signed the Treaty of Aliwal North, handing over the fertile western half of Moshoeshoe's kingdom to the Orange Free State. The very breadbasket of the Basotho people was now gone, legally, diplomatically, and maybe perhaps permanently. But the irony is stark. While some in the Free State today speak of a rich agricultural sector and gold mines, whose benefits they don't see, Historically, those very lands, rich and productive as they were, and as they are, were systemically stripped from the Basotho people. These lands, now the breadbasket of Free State, became critical for the development and prosperity of the Orange Free State and later South Africa, cementing the economic imbalance that persists to this day. So when the people in the Free State say they don't benefit from the very own mines and farms in their land, they're not wrong. The Treaty of Aliwal North was not just a treaty, it was an amputation. The kingdom of Lesotho was severed from its body, stripped of its lungs and arteries, and forced to breathe thin, mountainous air. Lesotho then became one of the only 3 enclaves in the world. It's not just landlocked, but entirely surrounded. This distinction matters because landlocked countries can border multiple states. An enclave like Lesotho borders one, South Africa, and the border is a political noose. The loss of arable land forced Basotho men into labor migration, digging gold in the very fields they used to plow. Remittances became a lifeline to Basotho, and independence only became a paradox. And today, Lesotho produces hardly any of its food and imports nearly everything from South Africa. The Lesotho Highlands Water Project, while a source of income for Lesotho, mainly benefits South Africa, fueling the 2.2 trillion rand Gauteng economy, which in turn drives the Southern African and even Western economies. It's poetic, yes, but the mountains that were supposed to be Lesotho's protection have now become its prison. It's easy to laugh off the idea of Free State rejoining Lesotho. But the uncomfortable truth, Lesotho's claim to that very land has never fully died. A member of parliament, Dr. Tšepo Lipholo, tabled a motion in Lesotho's National Assembly calling for the official reclamation of the Free State, or the conquered territory. His argument was rooted in hard legal precedent, citing the 1962 United Nations resolution which explicitly called on Britain to restore the territory it had seized from the Basotho people and handed it over to the Orange Free State under the 1869 Treaty of Aliwal North. But here's the truth. He struck a nerve, and not just with politicians in Lesotho. Shortly after, Afrobarometer data in 2024 revealed that 71% of Basotho support reclaiming their lost territory. But under the principle of the ut possidetis juris, adopted by the African Union in Article 4B, colonial borders are sacred. Why? For stability, for order, and for fear of chaos. We reached out to Dr. Lipholo for an exclusive feature in this episode. We were ready, the cameras were ready, and the questions were very sharp. But then, unfortunately, on the 2nd of July 2025, he was arrested. And on a personal note, this incident and the broader deteriorating political environment here in Lesotho, I've made the difficult decision to pull back. The fear of upsetting the upper echelons of power and risking political persecution is a very real one. And it's a sobering reminder of the environment which we operate in. So let's be honest. The full political return of the Free State is near impossible under current international law. The principle of ut possidetis juris states that borders resulting from colonialism must remain intact. Even the 1962 UN resolution, as symbolic as it was, lacks enforcement teeth. It is just a diplomatic nod. But consider this. South Africa itself is grappling with the profound injustices of its own land history. Debates around the Expropriation Act and calls for land redistribution, including in some cases without compensation, dominate national discourse. If South Africa acknowledges the need for land justice internally, how can it ignore the same moral imperative when it comes to land historically seized from a sovereign neighbor like Lesotho? So, is restitution possible? Not easily, not legally, not without an upheaval that could unravel the region. But here's what could be possible: a formal economic compensation for historical disposition, or a land access and development fund managed by both nations, or maybe a preferential water, transport, and tax agreements for Lesotho. Or maybe regional truth commissions that just recognize historical wrongs. This isn't about shifting borders, it's about shifting consciousness. Because history, left unspoken, becomes fuel for resentment, and resentment left unresolved poisons nations. We began this episode with a comment from the Free State, a voice weary of South Africa's empty promises and drawn to the very nation it once helped diminish. On the surface, it's an angry voice. But look deeper and it is crying for justice, for fairness, for a reckoning with a land beneath us. We traced the story back to the flourishing plains of Moshoeshoe's kingdom and to the fires of dispossession and the unhealed wound that is the Treaty of Aliwal North. The idea that Lesotho should become South Africa's 10th province can't be debated without remembering that half of Lesotho's original territory is already South Africa. The question isn't, should we give Lesotho more? It's, what did we already take? This isn't about nostalgia. It's about acknowledging history, acknowledging that conquest built modern wealth and that forgetting it built modern arrogance. This is In Perspective. And if you found today's video insightful, please give it a like, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going. And to you, our wonderful listeners, a massive thank you. We've officially grown from 119 to well over 1,000 subscribers in just 2 incredible weeks. And your unwavering support is what keeps us going. Thank you. Ngiyabonga. Enkosi great. Ritobonana beke etao. Inda.